Welcome to Seven and a Half Questions, an interview series inspired by the Seven and a Half Law from the movie Being John Malkovich. And like in the movie, we're going to dive into somebody's mind for a brief time and have them share some of their moments of connectedness, nourishment, and some of their bit about their COVID experience during the pandemic. And today I have with me Alexandra, who is in Paris. And Paris, people in Paris have just come into the second wave of coronavirus and a lockdown as a result. You're going to chat to us about your experience during this time. Thanks so much for being here, Alex.
Hi, Anna. Thank you.
Alex, tell me, how has your COVID experience been thus far, and what are the restrictions like in Paris at the moment?
Okay, the COVID experience so far has been amazing here. Let's step a bit back. I relocated from Singapore in mid-March, and my first day when I landed in Paris was the first day of the lockdown, actually. So I arrived in the morning where I guess it was 17 or 18 of March, where at noon time, people needed to be at home. And so that was my first day. My parents came to pick me up at the airport. They were all wearing masks, and I was the only one without any mask. And they said, wear a mask now because it's getting dangerous. And from Singapore at the time, we're not very worried about that. And people in France started, I guess, to take this quite seriously. The lockdown was in place for 2 months from mid-March to mid-May. And during that period of time, we are not allowed to go out of home, except for minor exceptions, such as going to buy supplies, staples, food, medical appointments that could not be postponed or delayed. Also, as well, a 1 hour walk within 1 kilometer, were allowed. Otherwise, you were not supposed to leave home. And so during those 2 months, I was living with my mom at home. So we're here together, and she is past 60. So she was very worried by that, more than me actually, because so far, we didn't have that many cases of death. But every evening on TV, I guess it was around 7:45, we had this guy from the health ministry who was making, the daily point about how COVID is progressing in France. And every day, every evening, he was telling us, so you had like that many dead today, that many people came to hospital, that many people left hospital alive or dead. So, and it's funny now retrospectively the way it went, because the numbers were growing actually, and I guess we reached the climax around 1st of April. It was not a joke, but we were like having 500 dead a day. Right. And so at home it was like tense with my mom, because she was very scared by that. And we had to buy food, so I was the one going to the supermarket to buy food. And but she was very stressed, and she was like telling me, take your precautions, be cautious, wash your hands, wear a mask, and so on and so on. So we did that until mid-May, and I think the lockdown was lifted around 11th of May, and people were very happy, and they started to celebrate. But I was not part of them, because I saw my mom was still stressed. She was not telling me don't go out, but I said, I'm not going to bring more stress to her. So I stayed at home. I guess my first party was on even my birthday. I was born on the 24th of June. I just had like a little birthday cake with my mom and my dad who came over. Even my friends were like pushing me to organize something in a restaurant, to do something. And actually, retrospectively, the risk was low actually, because after 2 months of lockdown, everybody is quite clean, if I may say. But so that could have been the great time to do it. Anyway, and so my first party was actually on the 31st of July. I hadn't seen my best friend since I came back in mid-March. I saw him for the first time end of July.
Wow.
It was a very nice party. I think that was the only party of the summer. And so, yeah, the life went on. The cases of COVID started to raise again. The scientists were saying that be careful, guys. The cases are growing, that we're going to face likely a second wave. But nothing was put in place until last week, where actually people started to say that the hospitals are going to be swamped and reach the point where actually you cannot receive more patients, or you will have to sort out which patient is a COVID one and which one is a non-COVID one. They also highlighted the fact that, all those diseases like cancer or diseases that need to be found out at an earlier stage won't be found anymore because of COVID cases taking priority over that. So in this context, the president decided to enforce a second lockdown, which is less severe. Actually, it started with a curfew, actually, in some departments of France, in some political subdivisions, let's say. Yeah. So they mapped France, the cases of COVID, they mapped the COVID cases in France, and they say, in those political subdivisions, you will be under curfew, meaning that you are not allowed to be outside of your home from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. So they did that for 2 weeks, I guess. They started with Paris and other big cities like Lyon and I forgot the other one. And then they extended it. And since it didn't diminish the cases of COVID, that we couldn't see any effect. And actually, to see the effect, we have to wait for like at least 18 days, for what I understood. The president spoke last Wednesday and said that the measures that we have been taking so far were not sufficient, and that we needed to enter into a second lockdown. But this time it would be different. During the first lockdown, the schools were closed. Schools, high schools, and unis were closed. In this lockdown, the current one, the second one, schools are open except for universities. And so kids are going to schools. Workers are encouraged to work from home. Non-essential businesses are closed. So that brings the question of what is a non-essential business. So basically, the second lockdown is less severe. Kids are going to school. Workers are encouraged to work from home. Essential businesses are open. You are allowed as a citizen to leave your home 1 hour a day within 1 kilometer to walk your dog, to exercise, not collectively. And that's it. Mostly that's it. Yeah. And my view on that so far, as I said, I came in this during the first lockdown, and I was like living it. So I had to adjust. But since I'm working from home, I work all day long, and I go exercise outside for 1 hour, and that's how I dealt with it. But I sort of other people who are living in smaller apartments or with big families, and for them it must have been tough to be living in such circumstances.
For sure. Well, it is a big challenge for everyone. I mean, we've just come out of a very strict lockdown in Melbourne. That was a 3 months lockdown, but we can only travel within 5 kilometers. All businesses were shut. So people were going kind of crazy, so definitely know what that's like. And and I know the situation in Paris in France is actually quite serious. There's like 36,000 deaths, like 3 million of active cases in coronavirus at the moment. So what is the attitude like towards these restrictions now that have come in place after being free for essentially, the whole of summer, right? How are people reacting? What are their attitudes like?
Okay, for the first lockdown, Frenchies were really abiding by the rules. We can see that. You could see dead cities, actually, ghost cities. There was nothing. It was empty, no noise. during the second lockdown, I had to go to, for the first day actually, to a dentist appointment. So I took my car and I drove in the streets of Paris. And actually, there was no real change. You could see like traffic, not jam, but yeah, there were cars in the streets, people walking in the streets. So that was the first part, the visible part. And on the news, you could hear local shopkeepers saying that we're going to open our store. We don't see why, because if we close down, because the president was saying, actually what happened is the president said, okay, we finished the first lockdown, we will not reconfine again. We will not reconfine.
Right.
As long as you abide by the sanitary rules, especially for F&Bs, restaurants and bars, like no more than 5 people per table and things like this, you will be allowed to have a business. And now, you know, people, F&Bs, yes, as well as shopkeepers, they in prevision of Christmas, they bought stock. They bought a lot of stock. And now that they are told you need to shut down with all their stock, who's going to pay for that? It is true that the government is giving money for them, but it's not with the sum of money that they're going to. I don't know the amount exactly, but for what I understood on news, this is not with this that they're going to repay the stock. This is not. They're not going to make a living out of this. So mayors in political subdivisions like mayor and city councils, they've said that we're going to allow non-essential business to open. And they know exactly that the higher subdivision will override their decision, right. But for the time being, at least they can open.
Yeah, and at least they'll stay to have a positive image in the eyes of, you know, the public.
Exactly.
So that's a kind of interesting. That's so interesting to know. So, do you think? I mean, are you seeing any positives come out through this pandemic? Like, are there things that you're seeing that could have a positive impact on the world or on Paris or France?
Somehow, yes, in the sense that this pandemic is revealing the incompetency of some governments, like in the US, we see Trump, and it comes right before his election again. So I think it's going to play a role into that, and that Americans would be less. They will not buy the Trump again as they did in 2016. They will think twice this time before voting for Trump. In France as well, what we've seen is that since the beginning, because the government has not played fair with Frenchies, and for instance, they told us at the outset of the pandemic that wearing a mask was useless,
right?
Because actually we don't know how to wear a mask, so it's useless. Don't wear a mask.
Yeah.
They said that because they didn't have any stock. So instead of saying that, okay, we don't have any stock.
Oh yeah.
Our bad. Please let us apologize for that. They said no. You're too stupid to wear a mask. You're too stupid for that. Okay. And somehow it revealed the incompetence of our government, and that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. I mean, I feel the same way. There's so many weak points like that is coming out that we're noticing now, and we'll realize we have to become a stronger system. You know, it's really highlighted our weak points and where we evolve. And so in terms of like what the things that you are currently appreciating more than ever, or are you currently grateful for, what are some of those things for you?
Well, there are 2-3 things. First, I was living overseas for 7 years, I guess, in total. And I didn't have a chance to see my family that often. With the lockdown, I'm well served. I mean, like, since mid-March, I've been living with my mom like 24 hours a day. So I guess I'm quite grateful for that. Now, joke aside, that's still good to spend time with our close ones, and in that sense, I'm happy for that. the other thing is it helps as well, when in those circumstances, it helps us to reflect on what we want to do or what is important to us. Because in lockdown, actually, you can watch TV for that many hours, but you're not going to do that every day. You can read a book for that many hours, but at some point, it triggers a thinking process, and in that sense, it helped. It helped to redefine, to reinvent oneself. Um, in my case, I'm launching a business which takes some substantial amount of time. So it just like comforts me in my idea that the world as it is right now is not as stable as it sounds or as it seems, and so you can be reached by a pandemic. So just follow your dreams or just do what you want to do, because life is short. Actually, you can
Right.
see it with all the dead.
Yeah.
So that's actually the good side and the bad side
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
this pandemic.
No, I so hear on that. I'm exactly the same. It's so interesting that all of these things are coming out, like, how important every single moment is, and we have to really treasure that and take advantage of this situation. And have you're someone who reads a lot. I know that we've been friends for a while, but so are you watching or reading anything right now that's, having a positive impact on you?
I've just finished Sapiens from this Israeli prof guy. I forgot his name. That was very interesting, actually. That was very interesting. I always remember the book rather than the writer.
He's got a complicated name.
There's
There's like 3 words in that name, and I always forget.
Mr. Harari, Yuval Noah Harari.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
A very good book. A long one. I bought it while I was traveling, taking a train. So I had plenty of time to read it.
Yeah.
And very intense, insightful. And that reminds you that we've been here, us humans, as we are now, for a very short period of time. And that our history is very short as compared to the existence of Earth. And that's, the book addresses several aspects, like how we construct, how we created money to get together, how we created figures like nations, governments, to get closer to each other. It's a very good book. It's a very good book. Another one that I've read, and I read it from time to time at different stages of my life, is The Little Prince from Saint-Exupéry. I read it when I was young.
I know. I just read that recently as well. I love it. I was reading it to my nephew, actually.
Okay, but you need to read it at different stages of your life, actually, because the reading that you have is very different.
Yes.
That's a very good book. Another one that I particularly like, and maybe the only one of this author, is The Alchemist of Paulo Coelho.
Yes.
And basically this book is the story of a shepherd who's traveling, I guess, in Spain. And at some point he trades his sheep against something else. I forgot what it is, but that takes him on a trip to Egypt, to the pyramids. And the tale of the book actually is to say that just follow your dreams. Follow your dreams. Sometimes if you really want something, I can even quote the book from my head. The whole universe is going to conspire to give it to you.
Right.
So
it's like it will manifest the things to you that you envision for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I never actually finished that book, and I never finished The Sapiens either. It's one of those. These are the 2 books that I'm like, I started reading somehow, and I somehow did not, but I need to come back to them. But The Little Prince, I think I was reading that recently as well, and I'm like, it's such a great book. It's just, and it reminded me of the wonder of children and how adults, we get stuck. And I remember him saying, you know, talk about numbers, and, you know, this is how adults think. They just think in numbers, and they never think about like the sort of the qualitative questions of like,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
think that's the businessman, the one owning stars or counting the stars that he owns. And the little prince asks him, "But why are you counting your stars?"
Yeah.
"Because they are mine." "But what are you going to do with it?"
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
All
a
that,
very
yeah,
good book.
yeah, it's such
Even
a,
about the friendship between the little prince and the fox, actually, how they meet and how they create bonds together, and how the fox explains to the little prince that um, actually then he will be crying when the little prince will leave, because they created bond, and that's named friendship. That's very interesting.
yeah,
That's a very good book.
it's such a good book. I love it. So with all the changes that are currently happening, where you are and in the world, has your, do you think your, what is your idea of happiness? Has it shifted in any way, or is it still the same, or?
It's still the same, but you need to adjust it. I see. I don't believe really in true happiness. I believe in being happy with oneself is what you've been doing within a day, and actually you extend it to your whole life, because your life is composed of days. And so at the end of the day, I like to be productive. And production, that means for me to have worked out, to have taken care of my body. It's really important. So I'm going to try to devote a bit of time to that. And in this COVID context, it's a bit difficult because now we're not allowed to go out except for 1 hour within 1 kilometer, and not collectively. So, and we are not like geographically located at the same place. So some have access to a park, some others don't have access to a warehouse just in front of them. So it's a bit difficult to be to it's a bit difficult. And in that sense, you need to adjust. I have a little garage just in front of the entrance, and this is where I don't jog anymore, but I do high intensity training.
No.
That's my way to cope with it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not because the gym are closed that I'm going to say, "Oh, gym are closed, I'm not going to exercise anymore." No, you need to find a way, even in your bedroom. So that's the first part. Then I like as well to nourish my mind with something. That might be a book, that might be a documentary. So I'm going to spend time doing this. With COVID, I don't see how we are affected by that, because you can still, okay, there is a point. Okay, with COVID, actually, since people are encouraged to work from home, they have this tendency to overwork. They spend the whole day working. They don't differentiate between personal life and working life, since everything is happening at home. So there is a little adjustment to be made there, to just say, okay, from this hour to that hour, I'm going to work for the company, and after that, I will read my book.
Yeah.
So this is important to me, to nourish my mind with books or with a documentary, maybe like with fun, like a movie or everything, but with no excess. And happiness, yes, is built with little things like this that you need to find. And at the end of the day, be happy with yourself and not to have regrets. I like to, at the end of the day, look back, spend a bit of time and say, okay, what can I improve for tomorrow as compared to what I've been doing today? And tomorrow, if I make the same mistakes, I will have a problem. Because they're like, now you're stupid. So, and that's my definition of happiness.
Love it. Thank you so much for that. And this is the last question. Do you have a joke or quote that you could share with me?
A quote, yes. Nelson Mandela, in his book, A Long Walk to Freedom, a very good book, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, very insightful. Actually, everybody in lockdown should be reading it.
Yeah.
Because the guy spent like 27 years in prison.
Right, exactly. If you could
for his
join,
ideas. The quote goes, "There is no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for a life which is less than the one you're capable of living."
Yeah.
So try to improve yourself every day.
Yeah.
Don't limit yourself. Don't put a ceiling above you, and reach out as much as you can. because otherwise that's a waste. If you're capable of doing this and you do just that, there is a waste somewhere.
That's right. Yes. And yeah, I love that. I mean, it's, you're not expanding yourself. Expanding yourself is so important
Yeah.
to being,
And that's part of happiness because that brings satisfaction.
yeah.
That brings satisfaction. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And fulfillment. And ultimately, I think this is all we all want that in our lives.
Yeah.
Just such
I
an
agree.
inspiring quote. And I have to read that book as well. I haven't read his book, but
It's my, yeah, some month you're not going to read, and then 2 months after you're going to devour, you're going to eat books
well,
by
no,
some.
I've been eating books as well. I think I've read probably close to 16 books during the lockdown, but
Oh.
yeah, no, I've been reading a lot, but it's because it's like, I feel like I have to somehow nourish myself, and that's
Mhm.
definitely a key thing for me to nourish my brain. I really need that aspect, because I'm not getting out and about, and I feel like you have to kind of like supplement those
Yeah,
aspects of connectedness with something else.
I agree.
And so in some ways it has been quite a positive experience, because supplementing some of those, other things that when I used to do and go out for reading and growing your mind has been quite beneficial for my well-being.
Mhm.
So yeah. Thank you so much, Alex, for speaking
Thank
with
you,
me.
Anna.
You've been amazing,
Welcome.
and you're so insightful and so generous with what you've shared. Thank you so much. I
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you sometime in the future. Who knows when? We'll chat soon.
Yeah. Bye, Anna. Thank you very much.